All right, we're back with episode 8 of the Saran podcast. I have my guest here, none other than the Rockin' Moroccan, also known as Zouhair Zamraki, also known as the last of the Dothraki from Game of Thrones. Zouhair, pleasure to have you, buddy.
Finally made some time for it.
So yeah, let's get right into it. Me and Z, I call him Z, a lot of people call him Z, have known each other for about, I want to say like 3 years now.
A couple of years, yeah.
Became best buds.
Well, we
ever
actually
since.
known each other before that, but only through online, making fun of each other on Instagram.
Yeah, so weird story. We had like a weird amount of mutual friends, and like I guess like we kind of knew we were gonna become friends. So anytime we would post pictures, we would just like roast each other, we didn't even like meet each other at first. I think this went on for like an entire year.
A little bit more than a year, almost 2 years.
Until we finally came face to face. And it was at the gym, right?
Yep.
And I was like,
finally met at the gym. We're like,
you're that kid that always comments on my photos, right? And you're like, nah, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I was a little intimidated.
Yeah, but ever since then, we've been on quite some journey together. And now we're on.
That's to say the least.
That's to say the
That's
least.
to say the least. We had a bunch of journeys.
Too many journeys.
God. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to talk about all of them.
That's off the record.
Yeah.
That's off the record,
a little bit.
baby.
Come see us in person if you guys want to hear those stories.
We'll get into some stuff briefly, but nothing too crazy.
Yeah.
So, before we get started, I want to say I met Z kind of like when I was in I wouldn't say like a bad time in my life, but I was kind of, I guess, it was kind of rougher for me because I was transitioning out of school, and I didn't quite realize what my purpose was or what I really wanted to do with my life. So I felt like I always had like a very negative outlook on life. Then I met Z, who's the exact opposite. And now you guys see me, I'm the exact opposite of a negative person. I try to be as positive as possible. But it all really started with this guy. When I met him, his energy, his personality, his willingness to just be open and just do as many things as possible really rubbed off on me as we kind of spent, quite some time together going through Belmar and other types of activities. But it's because of you, honestly. I think I really am the way I am now. You played a major key in that, so thank you for that, buddy.
That. No, of course. No, that's definitely goes both ways as well, just because a lot of people don't realize, like, when you meet somebody with the same personality that you have, that's when you actually spark that, like, that, I don't know, that openness in your heart, or like just the way you are actually comes out, but you need to meet somebody to bring that out of you. And like, same thing happened when I met you. I didn't have anybody that was like that. Of course I had my best friends, but their personalities were not the same as mine.
Yeah.
So after meeting you, it kind of just connected, and we just unlocked some kind of power between us.
I felt like as soon as we met, like we matched each other's energy, and then
Yeah.
that just like went outwardly.
Right. 100%.
And it kind of it created like a phenomenon.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people like started wanting to hang out with us and become buddy, which is cool.
A lot of people started wanting us to take a lot of videos, a lot of stuff that we were doing. It would just be hanging out, completely random moments we'd put up on Instagram, and we'd have so many replies, just people dying laughing at the kind of stuff that we do, and it's just a normal thing for us.
Yeah, that's when people started messaging me like a lot. Like I felt like I was almost like a micro celebrity once we started like hanging out.
Yeah, 100%.
Just from like the antics we did.
100%.
That's one thing I admire about you, and I'm really glad that it rubbed off on me. And now I feel like we are almost brought together so we can share these gifts with the world.
100%.
Right, and I feel like that's a huge reason why people like mess with us so much and want to be our friends and want to go out with us, because I think we just bring a certain energy that people are attracted to.
It's contagious.
It's contagious.
Contagious.
And it might be lacking in their lives too.
Right.
So
100%. I mean, I remember when we worked together at Orange Theory. I'm sure a lot of you guys know, but that was probably one of the best jobs I've ever had. That was phenomenal. I mean, we were there we would be going out in Belmar until 2 a.m., get back to his house, maybe like shower, eat, and then we had work at 4:30 in the morning.
That was I don't know how I put myself through that. Like we would go out
and this
all
is
night.
On a weekly basis.
Every single weekend. We would go out, and then I would work at 5 a.m. So I had to wake up at like 4:30, but it was like an Uber from like 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. back to Old Bridge. So you get an hour of sleep, and then I have to go coach classes and act like a regular person.
If you were to say that about any other job, it would have been impossible. But just the fact that we were there together, and we were just kind of acting like ourselves to the rest of the clients and everybody that was working there, it made everything so much better, and it just made it so much more manageable and like doable. And that's why we were able to sustain it for a whole summer almost.
I think that goes with really anything in life. Like if you could do something with your best friends all the time, like it's going to become so much more enjoyable.
It doesn't feel like work. It would never feel like work after that. if you're just doing whatever you do on a regular basis already with the same people that you do it with already, and you're just there enjoying your life.
Even like small minuscule things, like even like driving here was so much more fun because I had you.
God. Right.
But if I was just doing this by myself, I'd be so bored.
Right, 100%. But again, it goes into kind of the personality that you unlock in each other. And by the way, we're like at a public place, so we might be kicked out at any moment.
Yeah, it's really weird. There's just people passing by, and they're probably like wondering what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Okay. One trait that I feel like we both have is that no matter, what we're doing, what we're going through, we manage to have a positive outlook on life.
100%.
I'll talk about that a little bit. I'm sure a lot of people know where that already stems from with me, but where does that come from with you?
I mean, having a positive outlook, I feel, is so important. Just because if you've been through so much that you've seen some of the most negative things in your life, and you can smile through it and kind of get through it, it just doesn't make it seem as bad anymore. I mean, every single situation is exactly how you look at it. If you're looking at a problem and you're thinking negatives the entire time, if you're just thinking problems the entire time,
you're going to attract more negative.
You're just going to attract more negativity, and you're not going to get yourself out of that mess because...
It's almost like you're subconsciously looking for more negative things to add on to it.
Absolutely, and you're just looking at the worst case scenario all times, and it just stresses you out so much more. You can't think clearly, you can't think positively, you can't get yourself out of that mess whatsoever. And it just, like you said, attracts so much more negativity for you going forward. But if you have a positive outlook while you're going through the problem, and you see the opportunity in that problem, and you see how you can turn that potentially into a more positive thing, it's so much more, it's easier to get out of. It's much easier to kind of find your way out of it. It's much easier to kind of learn a lesson, take that forward, and prevent that same problem from happening, or any other kind of problem from happening. And it just helps you think critically and think of ways to get yourself out of certain scenarios. I mean, I think we do that a lot better now, just because we kind of both ran businesses, so it's easy for us to come up with or run into problems literally on a daily basis. Whenever you're running a business, it's never a smooth day. It's never a smooth. Like one day,
it's like being a fireman. You're constantly putting out fires.
Right. There's never 2 days that are exactly the same. You'll wake up this morning having a plan to do A, B, and C, but you have to take care of X, Y, and Z.
Anything that pops up.
Right. So the entire time you're just kind of problem solving. But if you have a negative mindset when it comes to that in business, you're done before you even start. If you think negatively about any situation in business at all, you're already finished before you even begin.
Yeah.
So it's so important to have that positive mindset. And if you don't have that, coming in, it's going to be very difficult to be successful.
I think that ties into, like, a lot of people talk about like manifesting your dreams or things you want out of life. But if you really look at the science behind it, it's not just like people are like ambiguously saying these things and trying to like act a certain way to look cool on social media. But if you look at the actual details and science behind it, if you're always thinking positively, your subconscious is just working for you, right? And you might not be open to opportunities that you think that you would normally see if you were always thinking negatively. You might be closed. But if you have an open outlook on life, there's so many problems or struggles or adversities you can look at and see different opportunities to stem and learn and grow from them, and they might take you down different paths.
One of the things I heard is that there's always a million different reasons not to do anything. Anything in life, there's always a million reasons not to do it. If you can find that one reason to do it, and you stick to that one reason and that one reason only, so you have tunnel vision towards that one sole purpose, it's kind of or moving with the end result in mind the whole entire time, you're thinking positively and you can attain it, that's the only way it's going to happen. If you're just constantly thinking about the stuff that can go wrong all the time, it'll never happen. So maintaining that positive mindset while kind of moving forward, knowing that you will accomplish this one thing that you've been working so hard for, and you're still going to work hard until you accomplish it. That's the only real way to actually seek out the opportunities and know when they're coming at you.
I think it really comes down to having, like you said, like a sole purpose in life. If you don't have a purpose, you're just aimlessly wandering from A to B, and you wake up every day and you're just floating around, and even the most minuscule things can bother you. But I think something that we both share is, well, for me, I feel like my purpose now is just to help and inspire as many people as I can. And even if it's on a small scale, like even now I have like, once I started doing this, I have like 1 or 2 people messaging me like, hey man, like, thank you for making this. Like you're a very positive guy, and like I want to talk to you about certain things. That means the world to me, and I feel very fulfilled.
Of course.
But I feel like before I realized and had like a clear idea of what I wanted to do, I was just aimlessly wandering around, and I would get angry at things that didn't matter at all. But now I'm so tunnel vision to just creating content and creating brands and just creating my platform so I can talk to people.
Right.
And then the more people that see me, that's going to give me a better chance of fulfilling my purpose, right?
Absolutely.
So anything that is lesser than that doesn't bother me at all.
Right.
I could get into a fucking car accident right now, knock on wood. But you know, if I'm okay and my car's totaled, so be it.
Right.
I still have the opportunity
100%.
to still fulfill my purpose.
Exactly.
So it doesn't really matter to me.
Right.
And you know, I think that you share that as well. I'm not sure what your sole purpose is or what you define that as.
No, definitely.
But like me and you are just so tunnel vision
Right.
that everything really just bounces off of us.
Mhm.
You know, and I'm really starting to feel like I'm attracting the best things into my life, and I really believe that the things that are meant to you will come to you, because I felt like I had this intuition from a young age that I was always destined for something more, destined for greatness. And I think most great people in this world have that same
Absolutely.
intuition put into them.
Word.
But it's up to you to discover what that is. And I think the things that are meant to find you will find you, and it's up to you to act on that.
Right.
And now that I'm starting to see this, I'm starting to act on it, and I'm like, hey, you know, one day I just woke up and I was like, I should make a podcast. And now here we are, 8 episodes deep.
Yeah.
It's doing,
It's
you know,
doing really well.
decently well.
Of course.
You know,
No, definitely.
And that's what I want to continue to do. Like my end goal is just to have. I don't care if I'm in a movie or if I'm on television or
Right.
I'm big on YouTube or something. As long as I have a platform and people are listening to me and I'm making a positive impact on the world,
Then you're in the right path.
yeah, that's really what I feel like my life path is.
Of course. No, that's definitely very important. You're right. One of the things that you learn in business is that to be a successful company, just like any other successful company out there, Amazon, Apple, so on and so forth, you're not focused on the what. They're not focused on the actual product itself. They're focused on the why they're
Right.
starting that company or that brand or whatever the case is. If your why, for example, for Apple is to innovate the way that we see technology, which that's exactly what they've done. If they were just thinking about the product the entire time, they would have stuck with that iPhone, never made Apple Watches, never made anything around it. They would have just
Exactly.
stuck with that one
Your why
product.
is what keeps you evolving and pushing
Right.
you forward.
So it propels you forward when you have a reason to do something. So helping people, for example, if you would have never saw that purpose in the long run, you would have just stuck with Alva, or you would have just stuck with the first business that you started. However, you still branched out and found different opportunities to reach people, to reach your end result of the why. So I feel when you have that reason to be alive, or that reason that you feel like you're put on
It's
this
almost
earth
like
to
a
do,
roadmap.
right? Then all you have to do after that is just clear up the clutter that's kind of in your way, so you can get there. And you know, once you have that reason in your mind and you're kind of propelled forward to accomplish that one thing, it becomes so much easier to think positively, to not let other things bother you, just because you know you have a sole purpose in life and you're working your way up there. So as you're climbing up that ladder, nothing else happens. Like you said, if God forbid you get into an accident and total your car. My car was totaled a couple months ago. I didn't care whatsoever. It was flooded from the rain.
You cared for like a day.
For maybe a day, and then it brushed it off. It was completely fine. A bunch of things would happen completely fine, because I know there's that one purpose that I'm trying to accomplish. And me dwelling on these negative things that happen in my life are just not going to get me there.
I think it's so funny how, if you look at me and you in this situation last year, like last summer, it is a night and day difference.
100%.
Because we would care about the most minuscule and smallest of problems that it didn't really matter in the end.
Right.
Like who cares? Like somebody pisses you off, someone tries to get into a fight with you at a bar, which probably happened a couple
Few
more times
times.
than it should.
Yeah.
But like it doesn't matter.
No,
Like why should that be on your mind like,
Right.
all the time? Or
Right.
You
And
know
you know
what I
what? That's a big difference too. I mean, from every situation that we've ever been in.
check.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're good. Keep going.
Yeah, but any situation that we were ever in where it got confrontational, we always walked away from. I mean, we never stuck around to find out what happens, or actually got into a fight or anything like that.
Right.
Even though we both fight, and we should be able to.
Well, that's how you know. Like we have it under control as martial
Right.
artists.
Exactly. So we would never get into a situation like that, put ourselves in a situation where we're considered for something like that. So it's just better to walk away and just, you know, kind of let that all that stuff bounce out.
Yeah, man.
So yeah,
I love that.
what's next?
I don't want this to be like too scripted, but
No.
I felt like in my previous podcast I was kind of getting a little off topic with things I wanted to talk about, so we wrote down a few. So it's not really scripted. We're still.
If we were to go off on a tangent, we would be talking about aliens by now. A little more than 5 minutes, we would be in
Nah,
a
like,
whole
if
different topic.
If
So we need to be.
If we filmed this like an hour ago, we'd be talking about some weird shit.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's why we need to stay structured and kind of have an outline.
Let's talk about some fun. All right, let's talk
Oh,
about
man, let's talk about last summer.
last
As much
summer
as
was
we can
crazy.
discuss,
Yeah.
by the way.
As much as we can elaborate. Last summer we kind of we had I don't even know how to explain it or put into words. There's just so many things that happened I'm not even gonna say last summer. There's so many experiences that we've shared together when we're together. It's just kind of crazy. I think there's this weird phenomenon that goes around that when me and Z are together, it just kind of amplifies the attraction girls have to us. I'm not trying to sound like a conceited or, like self-centered douche, but like I don't know, man. It's just something about us
I don't know if it's just girls though.
It's guys too.
It's all
it's guys too, man.
Yeah, I mean, it just attracts so much attention because like I said, whenever we're together, it's just you can just see the fun radiating off our entire group whenever we're hanging out, whether it be just hanging out at the beach, having a drink, or going into the water, whatever the case is, or we're out at a club somewhere having fun. We always attract a circle of people that will always come up and talk to us. It'd be random people. We could be walking down the street, same exact thing.
There was a period of time like when me and you were like hanging out a lot, and every time I would go to the gym, they'd be like, "Yo, where's your brother?" And I'm like, "My brother lives in Edgewater." What do you mean? They're like, no, yeah, your brother. You're always with him. I was like, Z?
Yeah, even when we were working at Orange Theory.
Oh, people would mistake us.
Yeah, would call me Jason or call him Z.
Dude, that's nuts.
And it was the same exact thing.
And we could even be like next to each other, and like they would still get our names wrong. It's nuts.
If you look closely, we don't look like each other, but
from a distance,
from a distance, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the white eye.
We're the same shade, so we have to be the same person.
Exactly.
But, I mean, I see that a lot, and also when I would come down to Old Bridge or Rutgers or somewhere you went, and everybody would already know me. I think I went into my friend's birthday dinner, and it was his friends that went to Rutgers that I've never met before. As soon as I walk in, oh, it's the Rockin' Moroccan. He's on Jason's Instagram.
Literally never met.
Everybody never met these people before. Everybody noticed me.
Dude, I feel like we're kind of like destined to like become famous.
Maybe.
I don't even know if I want to be famous though.
Yeah, we were thinking about that the other day. We were talking about Joe Rogan, of all people.
Dude, like being famous is like a glitch.
It is.
It's like a glitch 100%. In reality.
Because imagine somebody like that's life. I mean, a famous person.
It sucks.
What are the most famous people? Like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. You can't. Not a person that I know can see Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and just think it's a regular person.
No.
You would know 100% his Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
He's just the most like distinct person on earth.
Yeah. So where can he go where he can get some privacy besides his own home
and his gym that he brings everywhere?
Right? His little tent. But where can he go in public? He can't enjoy a cup of coffee at Starbucks, for example. He can't.
And you're literally under a microscope to the public.
100%.
Everything you do, you have to make certain that it's the best thing you can do and it's the best thing for everyone around you. Otherwise, you're just going to be ridiculed on the biggest scale possible.
And it's not even their fault most of the time. I mean, they might say some stuff, but how much stuff did we say that we don't believe? I mean, we would just crack jokes all the time, not necessarily believing them. However, if we had a camera on us and somebody puts that virally and we were famous to some extent,
it would make headlines.
It would, oh my God, it would crush the entire career of a person.
I don't know if I want to be famous, but I feel like in order to achieve or like create the platform I want, I kind of have to be.
Right. To reach as many people as you want.
Yeah.
It's the only real way. But I mean, I think it's going to die out, this cancel culture, this whole everybody being politically correct and only saying the right thing and the right thing only. It will die out just because now those people that are calling people out are being called out as well.
It just shows that if you're like so one-sided about any type of topic, like you can't think for yourself. You're sheep.
Right.
I mean, you can believe in one thing, but that doesn't mean you're left or right. You can have so many different views on life, but just because you agree with a certain aspect of a topic doesn't mean you're completely left.
Everybody's classifying people now, so if you believe A, you also believe A, B, C, D, and E, and then if you believe this other thing, then you believe all these other things.
It doesn't make
any sense whatsoever.
It doesn't make any sense.
If you gather a group of people and you ask them a real questionnaire, what do you care about? What do you care about in your life right now?
It would all be different.
Well, not necessarily. I think it would all be the same. I mean, what do we care about? We care about the environment. We want to live. We care about, not being in debt. We care about not having $300,000 worth of student loans by the time you're 19.
Well, I feel like on the most human level, yeah, you care about not being in debt. Yeah, you care about, making a living for your family. But outside of like the generalities of providing for your family and like being able to survive.
Well, of course. Then you
that's
have
gonna be much
different
different.
paths,
That's gonna be a
absolutely.
huge different spectrum, and I
Right.
think that's really the core of what people argue about.
Right.
When really we should all come together and agree that we should provide for our families. We should find a way where we can all have an adequate amount of money to support and have a nice lifestyle. But no, we're out here arguing about fucking 36 different genders.
Exactly. Yeah, and it doesn't make any sense. I mean, like I said, if you did gather a group of people and you take the major issues that are facing the country or anywhere right now, society in general, everybody has a good heart. Most people have a good heart. They want the right thing to happen. They don't want homelessness in the street. They don't want people to, do something to their leg or their arm and not be able to afford medical care, so they end up dying or getting a serious disease from
But
it.
at the
Nobody
same
wants
time,
that.
there's only so many people that take action about these things.
Right, 100%. And, I mean, unfortunately now, if you classify yourself as either right, left, or whatever you classify yourself, and if that particular group does not believe in that, then you can't believe in it either. It's just a default. I mean, I don't understand that. I don't understand why.
That's why I loosely follow politics.
Right, I don't follow politics whatsoever.
I don't like
but-
watching the news either because I feel like it's just brainwashing me to think a certain way.
Well, it is 100%, because now they're all politically backed and they're all just
They have
achieving
an
their own
underlying
agendas.
agenda.
They're all just trying to achieve their agendas and trying to manipulate the public mind. And now every single time you see one story, it's broken up into two, where it's one side versus the other, and it's either you believe A or you believe B.
Yeah, it's always the good versus evil
Right.
perspective.
You never have the real story. Just tell me the facts. But you can't follow the news anymore because of that stuff. But I mean, it's the world we live in. Hopefully it changes.
Hopefully, hopefully, we can make a change.
Yeah. But anyways, back to our lives. So how do you manage your work-life balance? Because,
You're interviewing me now.
because yeah.
Keep going, keep going. Got 8 minutes on here on the memory card. I love the backdrop for this.
Well, yes, you're like one of the busiest people I know, and yet try to have fun every single moment you can. How do you manage?
I feel like
those
people
two
look at that as like, what the fuck is I'm sorry, Mom. I told you I would stop cursing. What the heck is happening? Like, I work a pretty decent amount of hours because I bounce around from different things. I personal train. I run Brandswagon. So Brandswagon's a digital agency. So I basically work for myself, but I also have to run the business. So it's like two different sides, right? So I'm constantly contacting leads, looking for new clients, but I'm also like giving these clients the services as well. Then I also have Alva Fitness, which is a clothing apparel company, which I run, design for, and manage that as well. So I'm a little busy. I try to have a social life and go to the gym sometimes as well. But yeah, I think as I'm progressing as an entrepreneur and as I'm going through different experiences and finding out what I really like to do, I'm starting to learn how to break down. For me, I think it's really finding the line between doing busy work and being productive. Right. So like, I feel like a lot of the time you want to feel like you have to be doing something at all times to feel busy, but busy work can be like micromanaged into like blocks of time, right? And it is important to get done, but it shouldn't be your meaningful work.
Right.
For me, I like to have meaningful work. So what that means for me is either making, if I'm working with a client with Brandswagon, I want to give them a solution that's going to improve their business. I want them to convert more leads into sales. That's meaningful work. But I also have to schedule my appointments, send out emails, do my day-to-day tasks to feel like I'm being productive. Because as an entrepreneur, you always want to feel like you're doing something. If you don't feel like you're doing something, you have like a void and you almost feel like meaningless, which is kind of crappy to say. But I'm starting to find the line where like, okay, I don't really need to do that much busy work today because I took care of it. It gives me more time. Maybe I can devote less hours to meaningful work because it's not going to take me that long. But I'm starting to understand like there's so much more value on meaningful work as opposed to just feeling busy. Right. So I'm actually being productive, and I'm actually making my business grow with less time.
Right.
So I'm finding that balance in between what I need to do with all my businesses, and I also make it a priority for myself to always unplug and do something for myself. Whether I feel overwhelmed, I'll turn my phone off. I'll go for a run at like Homedale Park, or I'll go for a hike or something. Or if I want to go out and turn up with my friends, like that's something I do pretty frequently. But it's like it's almost like a release for me because throughout the week I'm playing different roles, right? So I'm a personal trainer. I always have to be happy at my gym, which I am most of the time. I have to be a people person, but when I come home, I'm like, I'm kind of drained from being around all these people. I want to just be to myself, right? But at the same time, I have to get all this work done, and I have to have one-on-one conversations with my clients, stuff like that. So for me, going out's kind of like a release where I can, remove myself from how I am at the gym, or if I'm at home, or if I'm on the phone all the time. It's nice for me to just like act dumb and
Right.
just have a good
Do
time,
your own thing.
you know?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
it's almost, it's yin and yang for me. Like I need that part of my life. If I wasn't having fun every weekend or, you know, doing something for myself, everything else would suffer.
Right.
You know, do you feel similar way?
No, 100%. You said it right. You nailed it right in the head. I mean, finding the line between being busy and being productive is so big. I mean, if you've been running a business for as long as we have, that kind of happens automatically. Like I said, as soon as you wake up in the morning, you have a list of things to get done,
Right.
and your brain automatically organizes them according to priority. What's the highest priority that you have to get done on a grand scheme, and then what's the day-to-day stuff that needs to be done, of course. Now, once you have such a busy schedule, you can even delegate some of that work, which I've seen you do, which I've done plenty of times.
Right.
Delegate it to somebody else who's much better than I am at doing it. I know I'm the least organized person in the world, so I give that kind of stuff to my sister or somebody else to do. And once you have that kind of, once your brain starts working that way, it's much easier to find the balance between life and work. And like you said, you're so much more productive when you actually have a balance in your real job.
You need it
And sometimes it takes, you learn that the hard way. I learned it the hard way. I was working
all the time.
every single day, pretty much from the minute I wake up to the minute I go to bed. And that murdered me. I mean, I was not getting anything done. I feel like I was just juggling a lot of things, and none of them are sticking. And it was just such a disaster. And that's when like my whole outlook kind of changed.
Right.
And I figured maybe I should just pause everything for a little bit, take some time, and then reprioritize and then move forward. So I feel you need that reset button every single week at least to kind of reset, go out, have fun, do something completely out of the ordinary. It's not in your Monday to Friday.
You do something completely unrelated to your work.
Right, exactly.
And for us, it's just going out.
Exactly.
Because we're social people by
well, we
default.
do a lot of stuff. I mean, we go out, we
train,
we go to the gym, we do martial arts, we play sports. We do a lot of stuff that's, you know, outside of the realm of business
Almost
or
too
whatever
much.
we're doing. Yeah, so we do a lot. So every single weekend, it's something completely different, which is a great reset for your mind. It's a great physical shock to your body. It just moves you forward so much better than what, you know, a lot of people who try to do everything all at once and get everything done and this, that, and the other thing. In the end of the day, it really doesn't get much done being that busy.
One thing I love about, you know, having, since we're both martial artists, right? We can take ourselves from the setting of completely being in charge of everything and running something, and then you go to a martial arts class or a jiu-jitsu
Getting your
class.
ass kicked. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Like that's a high key underrated thing. Like getting your ass handed to you every single day is one of the most humbling experiences, and it just makes you, it really just destroys your ego, you know, little by little, until you have nothing left, which is awesome. But that's a completely different topic. But one thing I really love about going into a martial arts setting is because you become a student again.
Right.
Right. All of the responsibilities from your professor giving you this technique, all you have to focus on is just having a good time and, you know, applying the technique.
Absolutely.
And it just makes my mind. I feel so, when I'm on the mats, like I'm so clear. All I really care about is just like having a good time and, like, you know, looking for a submission or something.
Right.
In jiu-jitsu.
Absolutely. And for anybody out there who hasn't tried martial arts, I think
Highly
it's
recommend.
the #1 product in the world right now. I feel like the #1 commodity to be successful in the future. Put your kids in martial arts. You yourself start doing martial arts. I think it relates to so many facets of life that
It's a complete parallel to life.
it's entirely
It teaches
parallel.
you discipline, teaches you motivation, it teaches you how to be tough, gives you perseverance, it teaches you how to stand up for yourself, it teaches you how to stand up for others, you can defend yourself. Like there's not one negative thing about martial arts.
And most of it is just not physical either. It's not about knowing how to beat somebody up. It's not knowing how to be shredded or whatever the case is. It's all mental. It's all on a mental level. I mean, just like you saying, getting your ass kicked every single day in class. That just goes to teach you, because you can be a high rank and still have somebody at a lower rank than you teach you something.
It
And
happens
if you
all the
take
time now.
that to life and you learn how to become a student in everything that you do, which is so important. I feel like most people, when they become a little successful, or they just hit a good luck streak or whatever the case is, they think that what they did for that particular moment is the only thing that's going to work. Taking any kind of advice is not going to help them. And that's such a wrong idea to take into any kind of business or any kind of venture.
The day you stop becoming a student of life is the day you failed. I feel.
Absolutely. You can never think of yourself as a know-it-all or a coach or some type of business person who's going to teach everybody. You need to learn everything first,
Constantly.
especially being as young as we are. We're just getting started. I mean, we haven't even scratched the surface yet.
Exactly. I feel like people kind of like gasses up, maybe not older people, but, you know, people around our age kind of gasses up for things that we've done or the things that we're doing. But at the end of the day, I feel like I haven't accomplished anything.
Right. And to us, it's always going to feel that way regardless of what point in life we get to, because we're constantly going to learn. I mean, I would never want to stop learning. And again, it comes from the martial arts experience. Like I said, I've been doing martial arts since I was 3 years old, and to this day, there's lower rank people out there that kick my ass.
And rightfully so.
All the time. And rightfully so.
It's just, I think the only constant in life is that things are going to evolve and change, right? So that applies to your life. Like, you need to constantly grow and evolve as a person, but every other facet of life is always going to evolve. Like, look 20 years back, like, technology was so much more different than it is now. Now I can record and put a podcast on YouTube, whereas the closest thing you would get to a podcast like 20 years ago is like watching an interview on TV.
Right.
And now I have my own TV show on YouTube or Spotify or whatever it is.
Which is sick, absolutely. And I mean, like, that's you brought up a good point too, which is everything is constantly evolving, and you can never ever stay where you were when you were successful, right? And you see that all the time in successful companies. Amazon changes every month. They're doing something completely new. Everything completely new. I mean, they'll keep whatever is going for them, and they'll look to venture off elsewhere and buy another industry or become a leader in another completely different industry. Industries that we don't even know about. You know, they have a contract with the government.
Yeah.
They store their like cloud storage for the government or something. That's insane. I had no idea, and they've been doing that for years now. And not a lot of people know.
The cloud is such like a big thing now since hardware data or hard device data is becoming outdated.
Right.
But adding on to that, you know, the whole growing and changing philosophy, I think what adds on to that is reflecting on how far you came.
Absolutely.
Because there's some times where I feel like I'm actually being stagnant and I'm not progressing at the rate I want to, which everyone, I mean, life's really going to dictate how you're going to progress, and the experiences you have are going to dictate how you change as a person, but you're not going to really realize you're changing until you really reflect on how you've been or the experiences or the accolades you have. You know, just recently I was just looking at myself. You know, I took a good introspective look at myself to see how far I've come in the past year as a person, spiritually, financially, career-wise, and I feel like, I wouldn't say I'm in a rut now, but I feel like I'm going through it.
Mm-hmm.
But looking back at where I was last year, I'm like, holy crap, like, I'm a completely
whole change.
Different person.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm like, yeah, I had a few things going for me. I was a confident person, but now I'm like, if I could like meet myself in person from last year, face to face with me now, it'd be like, I'd laugh at myself.
Right.
You know, and I constantly want to keep doing that.
Absolutely. And that goes back to what we spoke about in the first place, was learning from your problems. When you see a tough issue, you learn from it and you move forward.
Gucci. Got 20 minutes.
Sweet. But yeah, every time you learn, you move forward. And I mean, you've had a whole year of experience of problems.
Yeah.
So you have to be at a better position than you are, right? You know, than you were before. So if you keep taking that attitude with you, and you have to reflect back on the problems that you had, learn from your past, learn from your mistakes, and also just recognize yourself for the accomplishments you've done, because nobody else is going to do that, mind you. Nobody's going to.
You have to be your number one fan.
Absolutely.
You have to be.
Right. Your worst critic and your number one fan at the same time is what you have to do to yourself.
And I feel like not only us, but everyone kind of lacks in that department, being your number one fan. Like, you have to, before anyone else gives you praise or believes in you, it all starts within you. You have to believe in yourself. And, you know, it's easier said than done. All right, so my camera died, and I'm not sure exactly at which point, but I just want to reiterate a great quote that I heard the other day. It's by Thomas Edison. I have not failed 1,000 times, but I have found 1,000 ways in which do not work. And kind of summing up what we were just speaking about is, I think people don't really realize how valuable your failures are, right? And they're so eager to quit after experiencing a few failures instead of letting that encourage them, or finding ways to work out of that failure as a solution instead, right? And in my head, I look at failures as a stepping stone. And exactly as Thomas Edison is saying, you have to see, like, okay, this didn't work out for me, now I'm going to take this path. If this path doesn't work out for me, I'm going to take this path. And then over time, it may not be, 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, but eventually you're going to get to your end destination or your end goal.
Right.
As long as you keep going, and you keep persevering and trying what you're trying to succeed at, you're going to get there eventually. It's really the only factor here that it really depends on. Yeah, obviously you have to work, but it's time. And if you can commit your time and just persevere over that entire duration, which you won't know how long it is, you're going to get there.
Right, 100%. And like we were saying before the camera issue, you have to learn from your losses. That's the only real way to grow. If you were to start a company today and you were dead broke before, and it just automatically takes off in a week and you have millions of dollars now, you're not necessarily going to enjoy that, I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, in the long term, of course, for the first few months or first few years or whatever.
You have to go through the struggle to really appreciate it.
If you never struggled for that money, or you never struggled to really make your business or whatever you're doing successful. I really don't. I've never been in that position, so I can't speak for myself. But I don't know if you will enjoy it as much as if you struggled as much as you know other people have. And you hear it all the time from successful people. Steve Jobs, before he passed away, I don't know if you saw that quote or not, but he says, you know, when he was laying in his deathbed, he couldn't pay anybody enough money to give him life or to give him time with his family back or time with his friends or anything. And that was his biggest regret, was not taking advantage of the time that he had on this earth to actually spend it on things that matter. And he was just so concerned about making more money, innovating this, innovating that, or just building. And I think that's so important as well. But I don't know how we went from winning to losing to Steve Jobs. But
rest in peace to a real one.
Yeah.
But if you really take money out of the equation, would you still do what you're doing today?
100%. I mean, especially, well,
take money out of the equation.
We would be doing the same things as far as business goes. Of course, I have a 9-to-5 that I would not be doing if money was taken out of the equation. But business-wise, I mean, I think that if you are making an impact in somebody's life, I think that's more rewarding.
100 times more rewarding.
That's so much more.
And if you're doing it on your own terms.
Right. And you're doing that on, you know, you're supervised by yourself to make sure that you're striving for greatness, because ultimately your product reflects back on yourself. So if you're doing it to the best of your ability, the way that you think is going to work for this particular person, you see the end result, which is that person actually being happy with the product and you actually changing a course in their life. I believe that's extremely rewarding, way more rewarding than any kind of amount of money that can be brought to you. I mean, just like you said, just from the podcast itself, if you get a few messages saying, wow, that really changed the way I looked at life, or whatever the case is, you can't imagine how rewarding that is mentally. And there's no money involved. The person did not Venmo you, a dollar for him.
I don't do this for money.
Right.
Like that's what I do it for.
Right.
Like I want people to reach out to me. I want people to want to hear what I have to say about my newfound perspective or how I look at things. That's the entire reason why I do this. You know, another thing too is I want people to start doing exactly as I'm saying. Like, if you could take the money out of the equation, what would you wake up and do? What would make you feel fulfilled? And one, I think people are a little bit lost as to figuring out what they really want to do.
Right.
And two, they're not doing it. You know, and the only way you're going to know what you really want to do in life is if you try. You try a bunch of things. And I think it comes down to your core beliefs of what you find true to yourself.
Right.
With me, what really makes me feel good is, like, I like making people feel good about themselves. So I want to help them look at life in a better way so it's more manageable for them. I want to make people laugh by making, like, stupid videos. Like, I want to inspire people by, you know, doing cool photo shoots or, you know, being in commercials or stuff that people think is like, interesting. You know, that's just who I am at the core of my being. And, you know, I have like a bunch of different pathways as to how I can accomplish that. But, you know, if money wasn't an issue, I would wake up and do the same thing I'm doing every single day.
Right.
And at the end of the day, like, this is what I want to do. And I just want to be around, like, my best friends and my family. That's it.
Absolutely.
That's really it.
And you see people doing that are extremely successful. You know, they're doing exactly what they love to do.
Right.
And they're extremely successful. And they all blame it on loving the process and loving what they actually do. They all blame the success on actually loving what they do. They say, if you don't love it, you're not going to be successful doing it. So, and it's very true. I mean, man, I was going to bring up a point, completely slipped my mind.
But look at jiu-jitsu, right? So I literally walk into a 2-hour class every day just to have my limbs overextended or me almost strangled unconscious.
Right.
A normal person would be like, you know, maybe this isn't for me and I should probably just go home.
Yeah.
But no, I show up every single day because I love it.
Right.
And if you don't truly love something like that, what's going to make you, you know, want to go through constant joint damage or
right.
being put to sleep when you
believe
don't
me,
want to?
It's very difficult in both aspects. You know, coming into something new, of course, especially if you already have a job and hate it or love it, but you're making some money, you're not really enjoying your day to day. It's extremely difficult to get out of and start your own thing where you enjoy doing it and you're expected to make money or whatever the case is. It's one of the hardest things to do. You know, a lot of people talk about it all the time, especially when I was coming up. That's another piece of advice that I keep hearing. Just start, you know, if you love it, you're going to be successful, blah, blah, blah. But to actually put that into perspective, into your own personal life and just kind of, you know, foreseeing what could actually happen if I stopped everything I'm doing now and I proceed forward doing what I love to do and somehow find a way to make that lucrative for myself, it's extremely frightening. It's an extremely frightening thing because you're kind of looking into the dark. You don't know what's going to happen. However, I think it just takes that first step to realize that it's not, as hard as it may seem in, previous, but it's not as hard as you thought it was going to be, because you just take things one step at a time until eventually, like you said, you would look back on that 1 year or that 1 month of the progress that you've made, and you realize that was as hard as you expected. So you just put in a little bit more effort.
It's just putting in tunnel vision to what you truly love.
Right.
And I'm having a lot of realizations this year. Another thing I realized is I feel like love, that is the single most great motivation in life, right? Because we all strive to be loved, and as a result, like, I feel like my purpose is helping people, so I want to spread my love to others.
Right.
Like, I want people to have this positive outlook. I want people to interact, human beings, with all love. Like, I don't understand why there's like negative emotions in this world.
Neither do I.
Well, I understand it more now. It's because people feel a certain way and they project it onto others. But if you can eliminate that and you really dedicate yourself to serving and loving other people, life really opens up. I want to help people. I want to inspire people. It's because I love other people.
Right.
If I didn't love you, or if I didn't love my friends and my family, why would I bother like striving to be a successful person where I can have money and give us all these experiences and make sure that our kids, our grandkids are like having a good time.
Right.
That's truly what I want. If I ever come into a large sum of money, I'm gonna spend it on my family.
Right.
Like
100%.
I want to make sure my grandkids are good.
Right. No, 100. That's a really good way to look at it, and you're right. Love
it's the greatest motivation.
Absolutely, it drives everything. I feel. I mean,
think about when you start talking to someone new, and you kind of low key fall in love. How much more driven are you than when you're just alone and single?
You're so much more driven. I mean, it doesn't matter. Again, gender-wise or even romantically, it could just be somebody that you really
it doesn't even have to
have
be
a connection with. Right. It could be somebody that you have a connection with. It could be a family member, whatever the case is. That just drives you so much more to do better.
Exactly. If we ever became business partners, which we should probably one day,
it will happen. It's just a matter of time. We're just gotta find the product. We don't know it yet.
We would just keep constantly pushing each other so much just because of the relationship we have with each other.
I mean, just when I feel like both of us, when we started seeing a little bit of success in both our companies, or a lot of success in our companies, was when we first met. Just because we kind of indirectly motivated each other to do better.
Right.
I mean, you were helping me with my business. I was helping you with yours. Doing photo shoots, doing a bunch of, training people. We were doing so much for each other that it just motivated us to do even better.
Right.
And want each other.
You have to want your circle to win.
Right.
You have
Absolutely.
to. Otherwise, you're with the wrong circle.
100%. And just new perspectives. I mean, you learn so much more from other people's perspective, because you can only look at things in so many different angles before somebody else can come in and look at it a completely different angle that you've never seen it before. And once you have somebody like that, that's the only real way to wholesomely build up and be successful. But no, going back to love though, that's such an important thing to bring up. I mean, when you start believing in somebody or you start to love somebody, I feel like it just pushes you to really accomplish so much more than when you don't necessarily have anybody to work for, right, besides yourself or whatever the case is.
Right.
So definitely an important aspect.
Yeah, man. Being in love is a great thing.
It is.
Let's see what you thought.
Ups and downs.
Got 15 minutes if we want to wrap up on. Actually, 2 bars of battery. You probably got 10 minutes.
All right. What should we wrap up on?
Let's talk about love. Let's talk about love, baby.
Let's talk about what people want to see.
Which is what?
You got 10 minutes of bullshit time.
So how's your love life been, man?
Let's not talk about that.
I thought that's what people wanted to hear about.
No. How's your love life going?
It's non-existent.
Same. We're gonna crop that out.
Look at the time.
No, but I feel like we definitely got to do a lot more videos.
I'm telling you, dude, visuals is everything for us.
Yeah. So we gotta take people's recommendations.
Remember when we made that Google Doc and just never executed on it?
Yeah, I know.
We should probably do that. Probably get on that. Get on the ball today.
We'll get on that today.
Maybe we can get some done today, Mike.
I'll be done. What's Mike doing?
He's hitting me up, asking where we are.
Is this still recording?
Yeah. What do you want to wrap up on? What do you want to wrap it up? The Saran wrap. What do you want to wrap it up on? What do you want to Saran wrap it up with?
I feel like if you are looking to pursue something that you feel like you should, I think that's an excellent sign for you to start doing it. like I said, once you step into the darkness, into the abyss, it's super scary, of course, in the beginning.
I think like, really the first step comes down to just jumping and overcoming
Right.
fear.
You have to take that first step. I mean, just take the first step, and you'll find out how everything has steps that you got to take, and they become so clear to you. And once your mind starts to work that way and putting everything into steps, into prioritizing different things, what needs to be done first, what needs to be done second. Once you realize that, which it doesn't take long, once you
The
take
first
that initial
step could
jump.
literally be anything. You just need to take the step.
Right.
Whether it's with a job, whether if it's you want to start recording yourself on YouTube, whether you want to slide into your cute trainer at Orange Theory's DMs, like just go after it. Like, what do you have to lose?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You have everything to gain. I mean, worst case scenario, if you have a 9 to 5 now that you're working, you don't want to lose your job. However, you don't like it, and you start your own company or whatever the case is, you jump in head first, and it's super scary. Of course, it's going to be scary again. However, all that shows in your professional resume is that you took a chance, and people love to see that. So even if you
Always
can't
take the
find
chance.
any kind of success in your own business, and you go back to a 9 to 5, you're more than likely to be hired again.
Especially
Listening
at
to
this
position
age
better.
too, like the 20s. The 20s are your time to just
So
discover what you
crucial.
want to do.
They're
And
so crucial.
you have to really like cruise around and navigate to really find how you're going to set yourself up for the I wouldn't say like not long term, but maybe even like short term, like 5 to 10 years. Like you could be setting yourself up for then, but you're not going to know unless you try.
Right.
And your 20s are really the time to do that.
Absolutely.
You don't have any baggage.
Absolutely.
You don't have a family unless you do, which is not a terrible thing to have, but you don't really have all these huge responsibilities in life yet.
And the responsibilities you do have now, use that as motivation. I mean, whatever responsibilities that you're committed to right now, use that as motivation to be able to find yourself more success doing something that you want to do and freeing up your own personal time to spend time with the people you love.
Time is
That's
everything.
what it comes down to. That's why everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, I feel. It frees up so much time. That's the number one commodity in the world is time that you can't buy. And being an entrepreneur gives you that freedom to kind of
Exactly.
do whatever you want.
It's kind of funny how you have to work relentless hours to be an entrepreneur, but at the same time you're working towards freeing up your time, but then you end up having no time, and then you end up being Steve Jobs and you look back and you realize that you wish you spent more time doing things that
It's
matter.
counterintuitive, but I mean, if you stick
You
to
need
the game plan
You
of
need to find the balance.
right, stick to a game plan too. Plan out a time frame for your life. Make it short term, make it long term. 1 year from now, this is where I want to be. 3 years from now, this is where I want to be. 10 years from now, I want to be able to sell this company and do this, or I want to be able to be financially free enough for me to be free at age 35, for example, and retire completely.
I find that kind of like a double-edged sword too.
It
like
is a
setting-
double-edged sword, absolutely.
Setting long-term goals, because like at the same time, I feel like life just throws you so many unexpected things. So like
Of course.
there's so
Right.
many. I feel like life is like 99% uncontrollable things, 1% you're in control of your body, right?
Exactly.
This is a completely new topic, but
Yeah.
I feel like you really just have to go with the flow of life and maximize whatever life throws at you.
Absolutely. But I mean, organization is still extremely important. So
Well, yeah, I'm
if
not
you
saying
have-
be
No,
disorganized.
absolutely right. But having a long-term plan, for example, if you want to see yourself in 5 years accomplish something, that means you have a set amount to accomplish every single year, and you break every single year down into months. So you have a certain thing to accomplish every month, and you break that down into weekly and then into daily, and you know exactly what needs to be accomplished on a daily basis. Like we said before, no 2 days are ever the same, but you still have to stay focused to accomplish your to-do list while addressing the other problems that pop up. So I think it's a good way to wrap it up.
We just wrapped up the Saran wrap.
That's right. More will come, hopefully.
All right, guys. Thank you all for tuning in, and that's a wrap.
You like that?
Fucking like that bitch.